Revan was a hungry student with an appetite that could not be fulfilled. He trained under and with many masters in lightsaber combat, including Master Zar, Darth Malgus, and Kreia. His knowledge of lightsaber combat was top-notch. Not only was he a student of the blade, but he was a teacher and warrior. During the Mandalorian Wars and the Jedi Civil War, few could match Revan. Even the Mandalorians, a warrior clan, noted him as the greatest warrior of all time. Revan would carry many lightsabers during his time as a Jedi and Sith: red, purple, blue, and green. Revan was effectively a master of all forms of lightsaber combat, but for me, Niman was his preferred form. Based on statements made by Drew Karpyshyn and the variety of choices in Knights of the Old Republic, this would make the most sense. Niman was famed as a jack-of-all-trades form. It adopted the disciplines of all other forms, their defensive and offensive tactics. This argument is further strengthened by Revan's mastery of Jar Kai, a dual-wielding style supplemented directly from Niman. But what really nails it on the head is the form's concentrated use of the Force in conjunction with his lightsaber moveset. This runs directly in line with Revan, who is noted as one of the greatest Force wielders of all time. Though Revan was a master of each lightsaber form, and certainly a master of Form 6, if not the best, I do think he had certain specializations. His use of Niman would have derived from Shicho, Ataru, Shien, and Juyo. Each of these forms related to his battlefield mentality in one way or the other. The most obvious would be Shicho, which was geared for multiple opponents, often used exclusively in wartime. Form 5 Shien would have been used for his blaster deflection. In wartime, Jedi and Sith often employed blaster-wielding foes to fight alongside their cause. Revan would use this form to turn their blaster fire back at them. His use of Shien is further strengthened by his intermittent use of the inverted grip. Now Ataru and Juyo are interesting. His use of these forms are indicated in his single novel and the original video game. The two forms would have little application on the battlefield, as they were utilized more often in one-to-one combat. However, I think that it's possible that when Revan faced against his last enemy on the battlefield, he would adopt these principles. Ataru as a Jedi, and Juyo as a Sith. Both used to overwhelm the defenses of his foe through superior agility or skillful blade work. With all that being said, Revan's use of Niman and the other forms wouldn't mean much if they were not backed up. All of the knowledge in the world would only make him a suitable teacher, but his experience and application would earn him the title of one of the greatest duelists of his time. This will be further bolstered by his precognition, which was highlighted by the Echani warriors he fought. The Echani were renowned for their own abilities in anticipation, being able to predict the movements of their opponents seconds or even minutes in advance. Yet none of these warriors were able to defeat Revan. Now there are many instances we see Revan engage in lightsaber battles, too many to count. Years of training molded him, years of war sharpened his combative prowess. He defeated the greatest warrior of the Mandalorians in single combat. He cut through countless Sith on Korriban. He battled through even more on the Starforge, and he defeated Darth Malgus, a Sith even Drew Karpyshyn has stated to be a superior duelist. It's obvious that Revan's Force abilities outshine his dueling attributes. His superior power with the Force would go on to inform his fighting style, chaining lightsaber strikes with Force throws. But he has proven himself capable not only on the battlefield, but in single combat as well. Malgus was considered one of the greatest battlefield warriors of his time. For me, his hilt informed his mindset and form. It was a hefty lightsaber hilt, flanked by two large guards, sharpened to a point. It was not pretty, but it was practical and effective. The basis of his style would be Jim So, a strength-oriented form, based around parries and deflections, followed by powerful counters. Of course, this is all very speculative. There is no true source stating which form Malgus used, but it makes the most sense. In each fight we've seen him in, he favored strength-based attacks, attempting to bulldoze through his opponent's defenses. His offensive efforts were probably also bolstered by Shi Cho, which will be well suited for open battlefields. Nevertheless, he was not a mere freight train, attacking with a singular motion. He did not become infamous for his dueling prowess by only strong-arming his opponents. There are indications of other disciplines in his fighting style as well, such as Surisu, which he used for a tight defense when pressed by an overwhelming assault, Ataru, which he used for his acrobatic and skillful footwork, and Shien, which he would use expertly to deflect blaster bolts at his Republic foes. Heck, there is even indication of Form 6 being used in his toolset, chaining force abilities into his lightsaber sequences seamlessly. This would even extend to his application of Jar Kai against Kaosin Darach. Though the Sith of his time also used Juyo, I do not think Malgus was technically advanced enough to use this form. He was far too practical, and Juyo took a lot of practice discipline. Instead, I think he tied all of his abilities together with Jim So as the backbone. He took what was practical and left everything else that was excessive out, favoring utilitarian tactics over technical skill. As Jin Sarai would state,
"He'd be a terrible classroom instructor, but Darth Malgus is one of the great sword masters of his era."
All of this would be bolstered by Malgus' special sixth sense of the Force, knowing when a death blow was coming for him. This will be evidenced in his fight with Arin Lanier, who attempted to use her second blade to stab through him. In an instant, he was able to move and evade, even though he was focused on his offense. Malgus was a smart fighter. Even when he was ostensibly outmatched, he found a way to gain the upper hand. In his fight with Jedi Master Vin Zalo, he outwitted his opponent when he could not keep up with his strikes, as evidenced in his novel Deceived. After being punched in the face and having a tooth dislodged, Darth Malgus would go on to invert his grip and stab Zalo through the gut, showcasing not only great strength and pain resistance, but also a use of tactical ingenuity. He turned his pain into an advantage. However, he was not infallible, as he seemed to take issue with faster opponents in the form of Satil Shan, Vin Zalo, and Arin Lanier. Though he was able to eventually beat out the trio through his dueling abilities and tactical insight, he was suppressed by their speed. What made him so effective against single opponents was his singular focus on one-to-one dueling. This would make his assaults devastating, but it would leave him with tunnel vision. A tunnel vision that would interrupt his kill against Satil Shan, a tunnel vision that would open him to lightning redirection, and a tunnel vision that would have him suffer a grenade blast to the face. These were small gripes against Malgus. Few of his time could match his great dueling prowess, suffering under his unrelenting barrage. Both Revan and Malgus were battlefield specialists, single-handedly turning the tides of the battles they participated in. They were also proficient in one-to-one combat, taking on the best duelists of their time. Of the two, Malgus was far more ruthless in the way he fought, though he tapered that with his tactical precision, unleashing his inner beast when necessary. Revan was more balanced in his way of fighting, favoring an all-around skill set than a dedicated one. Revan and Malgus were quite similar in their dueling techniques. Though I believe Revan to be a Niman specialist who favored the use of the Force, he has also shown himself to be capable in blade-to-blade confrontation. Although Malgus was generally a dedicated Jimso specialist, he has also displayed himself capable of chaining Force attacks into his combative schemes. Generally, their feats and accolades match up, both defeating two of the greatest duelists of their time in Darth Malak and Vin Zalo, the pair of them having substantial success on an open battlefield. The deciding factor between these two may lie in the skill and strategy of their styles. Niman specialists were not only noted for their Force abilities, but by their versatility. A versatility Revan could use against Malgus' tunnel vision. By contrast, Malgus' use of Jimso gave him a more intimate, technical knowledge of blade-to-blade fencing, knowing the ins and outs of each parry and counter. In short, Revan was the superior, intellectual, all-around duelist, while Malgus was a more skillful swordsman. Therefore, the deciding factor between the two would be far too circumstantial. I would deem Revan and Malgus as equals in regards to their dueling abilities on the basis of context.